The first time my CEO humiliated me, I swallowed it. I told myself it was just work. I told myself I needed the paycheck. I told myself I was not there to be respected, only to survive. But the second time he did it, he made sure everyone saw. It happened on a Monday morning in the glass conference room on the 22nd floor. The room was designed to make people feel small. White walls, cold lights, and a long table that looked like it could swallow your confidence. Around the table sat the team leaders, managers, and the investors visiting from New York. Everyone wore sharp suits and controlled expressions. Everyone wanted to look valuable. Everyone except me. I was the operations analyst, the man who kept the numbers clean, the schedules correct, the contracts tracked, and the chaos hidden. My job was to be invisible, and my CEO, Cameron Reed, liked it that way. Cameron walked in late, like time belonged to him. He wore a dark suit and a smile that never reached his eyes. His hair was perfect, his watch expensive, his confidence almost insulting. He did not greet people, he owned them. He sat at the head of the table and tapped the folder in front of him. "Let us start," he said. The presentation began. The marketing director spoke, then the sales head. Then Cameron leaned back and looked at me. "Ethan," he said loudly, "tell our guests why our last quarter looked like garbage." The room went silent. All eyes moved to me. I felt my stomach tighten. "Sir," I said carefully, "the supply chain delays affected shipping." Cameron cut me off with a laugh. "Delays," he repeated, "or incompetence." Some people chuckled nervously, not because it was funny, because laughing was safer than staying quiet. I forced a calm expression. "We met the majority of deadlines," I said, trying to stay professional. "The issues were related to vendor disruptions." Cameron's smile sharpened. "Excuses," he said. "Always excuses." He stood up slowly, walking behind my chair like a predator circling prey. "You know what the problem is?" he said to the room. "The problem is we hire people who think numbers matter more than leadership." Then he leaned down behind my shoulder and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "And people like Ethan are replaceable." Replaceable. That word hit like a slap. My face burned, but I stayed still. Because in that moment, I knew Cameron was not trying to solve a problem. He was feeding his ego. Cameron turned to the investors and smiled. "Do not worry," he said. "I'll handle it personally." Personally meant scapegoat. The meeting moved on, but the humiliation stayed. After the investors left, I stood and gathered my papers quietly. I tried to leave without letting anyone see the anger shaking inside my hands. But Cameron stopped me at the door. "Ethan," he said, "stay." I turned. The room was half empty now. Only the executives and department heads remained. The people who mattered, the people Cameron performed for. Cameron took a step toward me. "Do you know why you will never succeed?" he asked calmly. I stared at him. "Because you're weak. You do the work, but you don't own the room." He looked at the others like a teacher showing a bad example. "This is what happens when a man has no backbone. He becomes background noise." My jaw clenched. I could feel my heart pounding. Then Cameron raised his voice a little, just enough. "I want you to apologize," he ordered, "in front of everyone, for embarrassing the company." My vision went cold. Apologize for his failure, for his ego, for his decision to humiliate me. The room watched. Some looked away, some looked curious. No one defended me. In that moment, I realized something that shocked me more than Cameron's cruelty. I had been invisible for so long that people forgot I was a man. I looked at Cameron's smiling face. Then I looked at the executives who stayed silent. Then I looked at the empty CEO chair at the end of the table. And a thought formed inside me, sharp and quiet. If Cameron wants to sit above everyone, then one day I will take that seat. Not by shouting, not by begging,
by doing what men like him fear most, taking control.
I did not apologize. Not because I was brave, because something inside me finally refused to die. Cameron stared at me, waiting for the performance. He wanted me to bow my head and shrink so he could feel taller. He wanted the executives to see him as the king and me as the lesson. But I stayed silent. The room thickened with tension. Even the air conditioning sounded louder. Cameron's smile faded into irritation. "What," he asked slowly, "are you waiting for?" I met his eyes. "I will not apologize," I said calmly. A few executives shifted in their seats like they suddenly remembered their calendar had other things. No one spoke. No one defended me, but their silence carried fear, because everyone knew what Cameron did to people who stood up. Cameron laughed, sharp and cold. "You will not?" he repeated. Then he turned to the room. "Look at this," he said. "He thinks he has dignity." He stepped closer until his expensive cologne mixed with my anger. "You work for me," he whispered, "and I can erase you with one email." I nodded slowly. "I know," I said. That response surprised him. He expected pleading. He expected shaking. He expected weakness. Instead, I gave him a simple truth. Cameron's eyes narrowed. "Then you should know your place," he said. I answered quietly. "My place is doing the work you take credit for," I said, "and I am done being your punching bag." The room froze. Cameron's face turned red. Then he turned away like he could not allow anyone to see me challenge him. "Get out," he snapped. "Go to your desk, and do not forget who controls your paycheck." I left the conference room with my spine straight and my throat burning. In the hallway, I heard whispers behind me. Not support, not praise. Fear. Like I had just signed my own termination. By the time I reached my desk, my email inbox was already poisoned. Meeting request, performance review. Meeting request, compliance. Meeting request, HR. 3 requests in 10 minutes. Cameron was moving. I stared at the screen and felt the same cold focus I felt after my father died in another story of my life. When life takes something from you unfairly, it leaves behind a choice: collapse or calculate. I chose calculation. I opened the company database and reviewed every contract I had touched in the last 2 years. Vendor agreements, client delivery schedules, payment delays, internal approvals. I had been the silent man in the background, the one who fixed messes before they became visible. That meant I knew everything. And if I knew everything, I also knew where Cameron hid his dirt. At 4 p.m., HR called me into a small office. The HR director, Pam Lowell, sat with a tight smile and tired eyes. Beside her was a compliance officer I had never seen before, a man named Stuart Green. Pam gestured to a chair. "Ethan, this is not personal." It was always personal when HR used that tone. Stuart opened a folder. "We have received reports of unprofessional conduct," he said. I blinked. "From who?" I asked. Pam looked away. "From leadership," she said. Leadership meant Cameron. Stuart continued, "It is alleged you displayed insubordination, hostility, and attempted to disrupt company unity." Unity. That word made me want to laugh. Cameron humiliates people publicly, but when someone refuses to bow, they call it disruption. I stayed calm. "I refuse to apologize for being blamed for things I did not do," I said. Pam sighed. "You embarrass the CEO," she whispered. "He feels your behavior created an unsafe environment."
unsafe environment. That phrase was a weapon. It turned victims into threats. Stewart slid a paper toward me. "We are placing you on immediate probation," he said. "Any further incident will result in termination." I stared at the paper. Then I saw it. A signature line at the bottom, and a clause buried in legal language. "Employee acknowledges liability for operational losses caused by negligence." My blood went cold. It was not a probation notice. It was a trap. If I signed, Cameron could blame future losses on me and sue me or destroy my career. Pam smiled gently, like she was offering medicine. "Just sign it," she said. "It will protect everyone." Protect, another sweet word with poison inside. I pushed the paper back. "I will review it with legal counsel," I said. Stewart frowned. "This is standard," he snapped. I stood. "Then you will not mind me reviewing it," I said calmly. I walked out before they could stop me. When I returned to my desk, there was a new email from Cameron. Subject: Final warning. Body: You will sign, or you will be replaced. I stared at the screen and felt something settle inside me. Cameron believed I was replaceable. That was his mistake, because men who think you are replaceable never suspect you might be dangerous. That night I went home and opened a folder on my personal laptop. Inside were screenshots, emails, financial inconsistencies, things I saved over time not for revenge, but for self-defense. I had always known Cameron was not just cruel, he was corrupt, and now he was cornering me. So I did what he never expected. I stopped thinking like an employee and started thinking like an owner.
That night, I barely slept. Not because I was scared of losing my job, because I realized something worse. Cameron was not trying to fire me quietly. He was trying to bury me legally. The probation form was not about my behavior. It was about making me responsible for losses Cameron caused. If I signed it, I would become his insurance policy. So at 6 a.m., while the city was still half asleep, I drove to a small law office across town and paid for a consultation. A contract attorney named Elena Rivers reviewed the document line by line. Elena's eyes narrowed. "This is not standard," she said. I exhaled slowly. "I knew it," I whispered. Elena tapped the clause. "This is a liability transfer," she said. "If you sign, you accept responsibility for operational failures, even if they were not your fault, and they can claim future losses were due to your negligence." I swallowed. "So it is a trap." Elena nodded. "It is designed to make you powerless," she said, "and if they terminate you later, they will use this document to destroy you." I left her office with a simple plan. Do not sign. Document everything. Strike legally, not emotionally. When I arrived at work, Cameron was already waiting for me. He stood near my desk, hands in his pockets, surrounded by two executives who looked like nervous bodyguards. He smiled at my coworkers like he was friendly, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. "Ethan," he said loudly, "my office. Now." The open office fell silent. Everyone watched. Cameron wanted another humiliation moment. He wanted me small again. I followed him into his glass office. The walls were transparent. Everyone outside could see our silhouettes. Cameron loved that. He loved an audience. He sat down slowly, like a king sitting on a throne. Then he slid the probation paper across his desk again. "Sign," he said simply. I stared at the paper, then back at him. "I will not sign," I said calmly. Cameron leaned forward, smile gone. "You do not get to negotiate," he whispered. "You are a worker. I am the company." I kept my voice steady. "That document is not legal protection," I said. "It is liability transfer." Cameron's face tightened. "So you got a lawyer," he said. I did not confirm it. I did not deny it. That silence annoyed him. He stood and walked around the desk slowly. "You want to know why you're stuck at the bottom?" he asked. "Because you think rules matter." Then he stopped behind me again. He liked talking from behind people. It made them feel hunted. "Listen," he whispered.
Either you signed or today will be your last day, and when you leave, I will make sure you never work in this industry again." My jaw clenched. Cameron was not a leader. He was a bully with a title. I turned my head slightly. "Are you threatening me?" I asked. Cameron smiled. "I am promising," he said. I stood up. "Then I will not sign, and I want this conversation documented." Cameron's eyes widened. He did not expect that. I walked out of his office. Cameron followed, voice loud now so the whole office could hear. "Do not act heroic. You are not important. You are replaceable." Replaceable, again. He wanted that word to poison my identity. Instead, it sharpened my focus. I returned to my desk and started sending emails. Not emotional emails, documenting emails. To HR, to compliance, to internal audit. I requested written clarification on liability. I requested confirmation on probation terms. I requested the source of allegations. Each email was a thread. Each thread was a rope. Cameron's face darkened when he saw what I was doing, because now it was not invisible Ethan. Now it was evidence Ethan. By lunchtime, Cameron made his next move. He called an emergency leadership meeting, not with me, about me. I heard it through whispers. "He's gonna fire you," one coworker muttered. I nodded politely, like I didn't care. Inside, my stomach tightened, because I knew how Cameron operated. He didn't just fire, he humiliates first, then destroys. At 3 p.m., the email came. Subject: Company update, staff restructuring. Cameron sent it to the entire company. It said, "Due to operational inefficiencies, we are restructuring. Effective immediately, Ethan Blake is no longer employed at Reed Global." My name in a mass email. No meeting, no warning, no dignity. My coworkers stared. Some looked shocked. Some looked relieved it wasn't them. Some looked away like I was contagious. Cameron stepped out of his office and pretended to look sad. He walked towards me slowly, performing sympathy. "Ethan," he said loudly, "I tried, but you forced my hand." I stood, packed my bag quietly. No tears, no shouting, no pleading. Cameron smiled like he won. As I walked towards the elevator, he whispered, "You will be nothing without me." I stopped, turned back, and I said the one sentence that made his smile twitch. "You should have checked what I know before you fired me," I said. Cameron's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" he asked. I smiled politely. "Goodbye," I said. Then I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, and for the first time in years, I was free. But freedom was not my goal. Justice was. Because Cameron Reed didn't just humiliate me. He made a mistake. He pushed me out of the building without realizing I was holding the keys to the company's darkest secrets.
When the elevator doors opened in the lobby, I did not walk out like a defeated man. I walked out like a man who just stopped being controlled. Outside, the sun was bright, almost insulting. People on the street laughed, carried coffee, complained about traffic. Nobody knew my whole career had just been set on fire with one email. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, breathing slowly. Then I called Victor. Not Victor Cruz, a different Victor. Victor Chen was my old college friend. Quiet, brilliant, and the reason I got hired at Reed Global in the first place. He answered instantly. "Ethan," he asked, "you okay?" "I got fired," I said. Victor paused. Then, "What did you do?" "I refused to sign a liability trap," I replied, "and Cameron humiliated me in front of the entire company." Victor sighed. "I knew he would eventually do that," he said. "That man is a parasite." I looked out at the building. "Victor," I said carefully, "I need you to ask you something. Does Cameron still have that investor meeting next week?" Victor hesitated. "Yes," he said. "The board meets Friday. Big decision. Expansion funding." Board, expansion, funding. The kind of meeting that decides who stays king and who gets dethroned. I swallowed. "I need you to do something for me," I said. Victor was silent. Then he said, "Tell me." That night, I opened my laptop and pulled up my hidden folder again.
I did not collect those files for revenge. I collected them because the company's numbers never made sense. Vendors paid late, invoices disappeared, budgets changed overnight, and Cameron always had a new luxury toy. I had screenshots of internal approvals that were not mine. I had emails showing Cameron forcing managers to falsify delivery dates. I had contracts that were rewritten after signatures. It was not just corruption, it was systematic fraud. I did not have everything, but I had enough for something powerful. Leverage. At 10 p.m., Victor sent me a message. "Cameron is panicking," he wrote. "He is asking them to check if you copied data." I stared at the message. Of course, Cameron was not worried about my reputation, he was worried about his secrets. I replied, "Tell me if they lock my accounts." Victor answered, "They already did." I nodded to myself. That meant Cameron knew I was dangerous, and fear makes greedy men sloppy. The next morning, I received another email from HR. Final termination documentation, non-disclosure agreement, non-compete agreement. Cameron wanted to trap me even after firing me, but he could not force signatures anymore. I forwarded everything to Elena Rivers. Elena replied within an hour. "Do not sign anything," she wrote. "If they harass you, we respond." I smiled. Good. Then I made my move. I requested a meeting with the board. Not an email, not a complaint, a formal whistleblower request. I used a private compliance reporting channel I helped build. Ironically, Cameron forced our team to create it for corporate responsibility. He never expected it would be used against him. Within 2 hours, I received a reply. "Board Compliance Committee, we acknowledge your report. Meeting scheduled tomorrow, 9 a.m. I stared at the screen. Tomorrow. Cameron had no idea. He thought firing me ended my voice. Instead, firing me unlocked it. That afternoon, Victor called me again. His voice was tense. "Ethan," he said, "Cameron is asking about you. He is furious. He's telling everyone you stole data." I laughed softly. "Let him," I said. "Data is not theft when it exposes crime." Victor paused. "You are really going for him," he said. I looked at the folder on my screen. The proof, the lies, the faces of coworkers who stayed silent while Cameron humiliated me. "Yes," I replied, "but not just for me." I lowered my voice. "For everyone he crushed." That night, I printed everything, organized it, labeled it. Contract fraud, financial irregularities, internal pressure emails, audit inconsistencies. Then I added one more thing. My own statement, a timeline of harassment and retaliation. Because boards can ignore numbers sometimes, but boards fear one thing: legal liability. I went to bed with my suit laid out for the morning, not because I wanted to look rich, because tomorrow I was walking into the room that truly owned the company, and I was about to do the thing Cameron believed was impossible. I was about to take his seat without ever touching his chair.
The board meeting took place in a different building, not the glass tower where Cameron ruled. This was the real headquarters. Quiet, private, protected. At 8:45 a.m., I walked into the lobby wearing my best suit, my father's old watch on my wrist, and a folder that felt heavier than paper. It felt like fate. A receptionist guided me into a conference room, a long, polished table, 6 empty chairs, water bottles untouched. I waited. At exactly 9 a.m., the door opened. 3 people entered first: a senior legal advisor, a financial auditor, and the board secretary. Then came the board members. 5 men, 1 woman, and in the middle of them, a man whose name I heard often but never met. Chairman Leonard Graves. Leonard was in his 60s, silver hair, cold eyes, calm posture. He did not smile when he shook my hand. "Mr. Blake," he said, "you requested this meeting. Speak." No soft talk, no sympathy, no performance. I respected that. I sat down, opened my folder, and spoke slowly. "I was fired yesterday," I said, "after refusing to sign a document designed to transfer operational liability onto me, and after being publicly humiliated by CEO Cameron Reed." Leonard's face did not change. He glanced at the legal advisor. "Retaliation," the legal advisor murmured. I continued. "I am not here because I am angry," I said. "I am here because Cameron Reed is committing fraud, and he is using employees as shields." The financial auditor leaned forward. "What fraud?" he asked. I pushed the first set of documents across the table. Vendor contracts, payment records, invoice discrepancies. "This vendor," I said, pointing, "was paid double under 2 separate invoices. One invoice was approved by my department. The other was approved by Cameron personally. Same work, same date." The auditor's eyebrows rose. "That is not normal," he muttered. I placed another stack. "These emails show Cameron pressuring teams to falsify delivery timelines to investors. Here is one where he tells the sales director to make the numbers match the story." The board secretary typed quickly. Leonard Graves finally spoke. "Do you have evidence of personal gain?" he asked. I hesitated. This was the dangerous part. Accusing a CEO of fraud is one thing. Showing personal gain is what ends careers. I slid the final documents. Bank transfer trails from corporate accounts, consulting fees to a shell company. "This shell company," I said, "belongs to Cameron's cousin. Cameron pays it monthly. Then it transfers funds into Cameron's private investment account." The room went silent. The auditor stared at the numbers. "This is embezzlement," he whispered. Leonard Graves held the papers with steady hands. Then he looked at me. "How did you get this?" he asked. I answered honestly. "By doing my job," I said. "I track operations, I track contracts, I track approvals. I saw patterns." Leonard nodded slowly. "Why now?" he asked. "Why not report earlier?" That question hit deep. I took a breath. "Because I believed I could survive quietly," I admitted. "I believed silence was safer. But Cameron does not allow silence. He humiliates, he crushes, and he uses people until they break. Yesterday, he tried to turn me into his scapegoat. So today, I refused." The woman board member, Dr. Helen Park, looked at me sharply. "What did he ask you to sign?" she asked. I handed the liability form. Helen read it. Her eyes turned cold. "This is criminally manipulative," she said. Leonard Graves leaned back slightly. "Mr. Blake, if what you are saying is true, Cameron Reed cannot remain CEO, and this company will face serious legal exposure." I nodded. "I know," I said. "That is why I am here." The auditor asked, "Are there more documents?" "Yes," I replied. "There is a full archive, and witnesses, people he pressured." Leonard's eyes narrowed. "Names," he said. I hesitated again, not because I wanted to protect Cameron, because those people were still inside, still vulnerable. "I will provide names under protection," I said, "because he retaliates." Leonard nodded. "Understood," he said. "We will open an internal investigation immediately. Cameron will not be informed today. We will monitor his communications, and we will secure financial systems." I felt something loosen in my chest. Not victory, not revenge. Control. The kind of control Cameron thought belonged only to him. As I stood to leave, Leonard stopped me. "Mr. Blake, what outcome do you want?" I paused. I looked at the boardroom table, the chairs. "I want the company safe from him," I said, "and I want accountability." Leonard nodded. Then he said words that made my heartbeat pause. "If you cooperated fully," he said, "and the evidence holds, would you accept a leadership role?" Leadership. I swallowed. "I will accept what I deserve," I said quietly. Leonard's eyes softened just slightly. "Good," he said.
Because Cameron Reed has been sitting in a seat he does not deserve. I walked out of the building with sunlight on my face. Cameron had no idea that inside that room, his throne was already collapsing.
The investigation moved like a silent storm. For 3 days, nothing happened publicly. Cameron still walked through the office like a king. He smiled at executives, joked with investors, and spoke loudly about company culture. He acted confident because he believed no one could touch him. But behind the scenes, the board was stripping his armor. Victor Chen called me every night with updates. "They pulled server logs," he whispered. "They are auditing approvals. They are locking down finance." Then he paused and added, "Ethan, Cameron is acting weird." "Weird how?" I asked. Victor lowered his voice. "He's deleting emails," he said. "He's calling IT. He's telling managers to rewrite reports. He thinks something is coming." Cameron could feel it. Guilty men always feel it. On the 4th day, the board announced an emergency executive session. Not a normal meeting, not a routine check, an emergency. Victor texted me one sentence: "Cameron looks pale." At 2 p.m., I got a call from Leonard Graves himself. "Mr. Blake," he said, voice calm, "come to headquarters, now." No greeting, no explanation. My stomach tightened, but my mind stayed clear. When I arrived, security escorted me upstairs, not to a meeting room, to the main boardroom. This time, the room was full. Board members, legal counsel, financial auditors, 2 investigators, and Cameron Reed. He stood near the window, hands clenched behind his back, trying to look calm, but his jaw was tight. His suit was perfect, yet sweat darkened his collar slightly. He turned when I walked in. His eyes widened, then narrowed. "You," he hissed softly. Leonard Graves sat at the head of the table. He did not offer Cameron the head seat. That alone was a knife. Leonard spoke. "Cameron," he said, "we have opened an internal investigation. We have evidence of fraudulent financial behavior. We have evidence of contract manipulation. We have evidence of retaliation against employees." Cameron's smile appeared suddenly, fake and controlled. "This is absurd," he said. "You are listening to a fired analyst?" Leonard did not blink. "We are listening to evidence, and your own systems provided it." The auditor slid a thick report across the table. Cameron glanced at it. His smile cracked. He looked at the pages like they were poison. Then he laughed, a loud, forced laugh. "Come on," he said. "You know how business works. Sometimes we move money around. Sometimes we adjust numbers to protect stock confidence." Leonard's voice turned cold. "This is not adjustment," he said. "This is theft." Cameron's eyes flashed. "You cannot prove I benefited," he snapped. The legal counsel spoke calmly. "We can," she said. "We traced transfers into your personal investment account. We traced payments to a share company connected to your family." Cameron's face went pale. His hand tightened into a fist. Then he turned his gaze on me. "You did this," he whispered. "You were always weak, always jealous. You wanted my seat." Leonard cut in. "No," he said. "He wanted accountability. You forced the rest." Cameron slammed his hand on the table. "This company is nothing without me," he shouted. "I built the brand." Helen Park replied sharply. "You built your ego. You built a culture of fear, and you built fraud." Cameron's breathing became fast. He was losing control, and that was when the monster inside him showed. He leaned toward Leonard. "If you remove me," he said slowly, "I will destroy this company. I will take investors. I will leak internal information. I will burn everything." Leonard stared at him with calm disgust. "You just confessed to blackmail," he said. Cameron froze. He realized too late. He had spoken like a criminal in front of lawyers.
The legal counsel nodded to investigators. "Record that," she said. Cameron's confidence shattered. He tried to switch tactics. He softened his voice. "Leonard," he said quietly, "we can handle this privately. You do not want scandal. I can resign quietly. No one needs to know." Leonard Graves leaned back. "No," he said, "we will handle this publicly, because silence is how men like you survive." Cameron's eyes widened in disbelief. "You will ruin me," he whispered. Leonard nodded. "Yes," he said, "and you earned it." Then Leonard looked at the security chief. "Escort Cameron Reed out. Effective immediately, he is suspended from all duties, his access revoked, his company devices seized." Cameron stumbled backwards like he was hit physically. "This is insane! You cannot—" Security approached. Cameron jerked away and glared at me again. "This is not over," he hissed. "I will destroy you." I met his eyes calmly. "You already tried, and you failed." Security escorted him out. For the first time, Cameron Reed walked out of a room without control. When the door closed, silence filled the boardroom. Leonard Graves looked at me. "Mr. Blake," he said, "we will proceed with external reporting. There will be consequences. The company will suffer." I nodded. "I understand, but the company will survive, because the truth does." Leonard nodded slowly. "Good," he said, "because now we need leadership that is not built on fear." Then he gestured to the empty seat at the head of the table, Cameron's seat, and my chest tightened, because the revenge was no longer a dream. It was becoming real. The news broke the next morning. Not in a dramatic headline at first, not in screaming TV anchors. It started with whispers inside the company. Cameron is gone. Security took his laptop. The board suspended him. Federal investigators might come. By noon, it was everywhere. A business blog published, "Reed Global CEO placed on suspension amid financial investigation." Then mainstream outlets picked it up. And suddenly, the man who humiliated everyone for years was the one being humiliated publicly. Victor called me, voice shaking. "This is crazy," he said. "Cameron is melting down." "Where is he?" I asked. Victor lowered his voice. "He came back to the building," he whispered. "He tried to enter. Security blocked him." I pictured it. Cameron Reed, the man who thought he owned the tower, being denied at the front door like a stranger. Karma had perfect timing. But karma was not finished. That evening, I received a message from an unknown number. "You think you won. You have no idea what you started." My stomach tightened. Another message came immediately. "I know where you live. I know your father's name. This is bigger than you." My hands went cold. This was not Cameron anymore. This felt like someone else, someone trained, someone dangerous. I called Elena Rivers. She listened, then said calmly, "Ethan, do not respond. Screenshot everything and notify the board's legal counsel." I did. The board legal team reacted fast. They arranged private security for me. They also told me something that shocked me. Cameron had outside partners, the legal counsel said. "This is not just internal fraud. Some contracts may involve criminal networks." Criminal networks. My chest tightened. So Cameron was not just stealing, he was connected. That night I sat in my apartment with the blinds closed, thinking about the boardroom moment, the empty seat, and the threats. I could have backed out. I could have begged the board to handle it without me. I could have chosen safety. But then I remembered Cameron's words. "You are replaceable." If I backed down, I would prove him right. So instead, I made a decision. I would not just destroy Cameron. I would take his seat permanently. Not for ego, for protection, for power. Because in a world where corruption exists, powerless men get crushed. The next day, the board asked me to attend another meeting. This time, not about Cameron, about the company's future. Leonard Graves spoke first. "We need an interim CEO," he said, "and we need someone who understands operations, compliance, and internal truth." Helen Park looked at me. "We have reviewed your record," she said. "Your performance evaluations were manipulated. Your contributions were erased, but the data shows the company ran smoothly because of you." My throat tightened. For years I was invisible. Now the same numbers Cameron mocked were speaking for me. Leonard leaned forward. "Mr. Blake," he said, "we are offering you interim leadership." The word hit like lightning. Interim CEO. I swallowed. "I am not trained for politics," I said. "I do not play games." Leonard nodded. "That is why you are needed," he replied. "We are done with games." The vote was taken. 5 hands raised, one after another. Unanimous. Leonard stood and extended his hand. "Congratulations," he said. "Effective immediately, Ethan Blake, you are interim CEO of Reed Global." For a moment, I couldn't move. Then I shook his hand. I felt the weight of it, the reality. Cameron's throne was not just empty, it was mine. But as I walked out, a board staff member handed Leonard a note. Leonard read it, and his face tightened. He looked at me. "Ethan," he quietly said, "Cameron is not accepting this. He is contacting investors. He is trying to trigger a hostile takeover." My blood turned cold. So Cameron was not done. He couldn't keep the seat, so he would burn the building. I looked back at the boardroom, at the head chair. I took a slow breath. Then I said the words I never thought I would say. "Let him try," I said. Because now I was not the man begging for dignity. Now I was the man defending a company, and the next battle would not be humiliation. It would be war.
Cameron's revenge plan was fast, ruthless, and calculated. Within 48 hours, 3 major investors called for emergency meetings. The stock value dipped. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some employees panicked and updated their resumes. Others whispered that the company was finished without Cameron. That was the poison he planted. If he could not sit in the CEO chair, he wanted everyone to believe nobody else could. Leonard Graves warned me. "He is trying to trigger panic selling," he said. "If enough investors lose faith, Cameron's allies can buy control cheap." Allies. That word kept echoing. It meant this was not only Cameron, it was a machine behind him. Victor Chen brought me internal intelligence quietly. "He is calling department heads," he whispered. "He is promising promotions if they support him, and he is threatening people too." Threatening. Of course, that was Cameron's true language. I walked into my new office on the 22nd floor. His office, the same place where he once made me feel small. The room was wide and bright with glass windows. The city looked tiny beneath it. Cameron used this view to remind people he was above them. I did not. I looked at the view and saw responsibility. On Cameron's desk, a framed quote sat beside a gold pen. "Power is earned, not given." I picked it up, then I threw it into the trash, because Cameron did not earn power, he stole it. My first move was simple. I called an all-hands meeting, not in the glass conference room, in the main event hall. Every employee received the invitation. At 10 a.m., the room filled with hundreds of people. Some looked scared, some looked curious, some looked angry. Many did not trust me because they barely knew me. I stepped onto the stage. The microphone felt heavy. I took a breath and spoke. "Good morning," I said. "My name is Ethan Blake. Most of you know me as the operations analyst who sat in the back. Some of you know me as the man Cameron humiliated, and some of you know me as the man he fired." A wave of murmurs moved through the room. I continued calmly. "As of today, I am the interim CEO. Not because I fought for power, but because I fought for truth." Silence. I could see fear in their eyes, fear of retaliation,
fear of change, fear of losing jobs. I spoke clearly. I will not lie to you. We are under investigation. We will face consequences, but we will survive, because we are going to rebuild on something Cameron never used. I paused. Integrity. The word hung in the air like sunlight after storm. I added, no one will be punished for cooperating with investigators. No one will be bullied. No one will be humiliated. People blinked like they didn't recognize the idea of dignity. Then I said the sentence that shocked them. I am increasing whistleblower protection, and I am launching a full internal reset. We will clean every contract, every vendor, every approval. A few people clapped timidly, then more, then louder. For the first time, I saw something in their faces. Hope. But hope attracts enemies too. That afternoon, Cameron struck again. A major investor group issued a public statement. We question the leadership shift. We demand Cameron Reed's immediate reinstatement. Leonard Graves called me. Ethan, he said, this is the takeover attempt. They are using investor influence to force the board. I clenched my jaw. Who are they? I asked. Leonard's voice hardened. The investor group is connected to Cameron through a private fund, he said. Cameron built a safety net. If he fell, they would catch him. Safety net. A trap. But I was not the old Ethan anymore. I called Helen Park. Helen, I said, I want every contract tied to that investor group, every signature, every payment, every meeting record. Helen paused. You are going hunting, she said. Yes, I replied, and I will not miss. Victor found the key 2 days later, a confidential contract, a contract I had never seen before. It was called Executive Control Protection Agreement. It contained a clause that made my blood turn cold. If Cameron was removed due to misconduct, the investor group could trigger a forced leadership review and buy majority voting power at a discount. Cameron designed it. If he fell, he would still win. Victor whispered, he built this years ago. He planned for betrayal. I stared at the clause, and suddenly I understood the real game. Cameron did not just want to be CEO. He wanted to own the company forever, even if he was fired. He wanted his seat even without his body in it. I looked out the office window at the city below. Then I spoke quietly to myself. Not this time. Because Cameron thought he was the only one who could plan. But he forgot something. I lived inside his systems. I knew his patterns. And now I had access to the one weapon he never expected me to hold. Authority. I picked up the phone and called legal. Prepare a countermove, I said. We are going to destroy his safety net. Publicly, legally, completely.
The countermove had to be clean. Not emotional revenge, not a public screaming match. If I attacked Cameron like a wounded employee, he would win. He would paint me as unstable. He would turn investors against me. He would turn the media into his shield. So I attacked him like a CEO. Step 1, kill the takeover clause. Step 2, expose the investor group. Step 3, make Cameron toxic. I met with the board's external legal team in a secure conference room. No phones, no assistants, only lawyers and hard facts. The lead attorney, Monica Giles, spoke first. This executive control protection agreement is legally questionable, she said. It creates conflict of interest. It is likely invalid if it was not disclosed. Leonard Graves asked, "Can we break it?" Monica nodded. "We can," she said, "but we need evidence Cameron hid it deliberately." I looked at Victor. Victor swallowed and slid a USB drive across the table. "We have it," he said. On the drive were internal emails from years ago, Cameron instructing the finance team to keep certain documents off official record, Cameron calling the agreement a hidden seatbelt, Cameron saying, "Even if they fire me, they cannot remove me." The room went quiet. Monica nodded slowly. "This is concealment," she said, "and it is explosive." Leonard Graves leaned forward. "Then we go public?" he asked. Monica raised a hand. "Not yet," she warned. "First, we file emergency motions to suspend the investor group's voting trigger.
Then we notify regulators. Then we control the narrative. Control the narrative. Cameron owned narratives. He lived on them. Now, I would take that weapon away. That night, I received another threat message. You are playing with fire. Cameron is protected. I stared at the phone and replied one sentence. Not anymore. Then I blocked the number. The next morning, we executed the legal strike. Reed Global filed a court petition to void the Executive Control Protection Agreement due to concealment and conflict of interest. Simultaneously, the board reported misconduct findings to regulatory authorities. Simultaneously, internal finance froze all accounts tied to the investor group's shell networks. Within hours, the investor group panicked. They demanded emergency conversation. Leonard called me. They want to negotiate, he said. I answered coldly. No, I said. They do not negotiate. They surrender. At 3 p.m., the investor group's representatives appeared in the boardroom. 2 men and 1 woman. Perfect suits, cold smiles, dangerous calm. The lead man, Mr. Halden, spoke smoothly. Mr. Blake, he said, this is a misunderstanding. Cameron was an asset. We supported him. That is normal. I smiled politely. What is normal, I said, is disclosure. What is not normal is hiding contracts and threatening leadership. Halden's smile tightened. You are young, he said. You do not understand power dynamics. I leaned forward. You are right, I said. I do not understand your power, because you are about to lose it. Halden's eyes flashed. You cannot freeze our influence, he warned. We will collapse your stock. We will sue. We will ruin you. Leonard Graves stood. We are already in court, he said, and you are already under review. The woman representative spoke sharply. If Cameron goes down, this company burns. I stared at her. Then Cameron should not have committed fraud, I replied. Cameron's voice turned colder. We did not commit fraud, he said. He did. I nodded. Yes, I said, and you funded him. You protected him. You planned to profit from his fall. So now you will answer too. Silence. They left furious, but their anger was useless now because we had already sent the evidence package to regulators. The next day, a business headline appeared. Investor fund linked to CEO fraud scandal under investigation. Cameron's safety net was no longer invisible. It was radioactive. The market reacted immediately. The fund's partners began to flee. Reed Global stock dipped, then stabilized. And inside the company, something changed. Employees stopped whispering fearfully. They started whispering something else. Respect. Because for the first time, someone stood up to Cameron's shadow. But Cameron was not finished. He made his final move. He went on camera. A live interview with a major business news channel. Victor texted me. He is about to attack you publicly. I stared at the message calmly. Good. Because once Cameron spoke publicly, he would hang himself with his own words.
Cameron Reed walked onto television like he was walking onto a throne. He sat under bright studio lights, wearing a dark suit and a calm smile. The interviewer introduced him with soft caution, like she knew she was sitting across from a man who could destroy reputations with a sentence. Cameron leaned forward and spoke like a victim. I built Reed Global, he said, and now I am being attacked by disgruntled former employees. This is a hostile attempt to steal my legacy. Legacy. He said it like he was a hero. Then he said my name. Cameron Blake, he continued, voice smooth, was fired for incompetence. He is now manipulating the board with fabricated documents. Fabricated. That word was a knife aimed at my credibility. But it was also exactly what we needed, because the moment Cameron said fabricated on live television, he crossed into defamation, and the legal team smiled. Monica Giles called me immediately. He is done, she said. I watched the interview in my office, alone, not shaking, not angry, just waiting. Because Cameron thought the camera was his weapon, he did not realize the camera was evidence. When the interviewer asked about the hidden investor agreement, Cameron laughed softly. "That contract is routine," he said. "Every executive protects stability. If they remove me, the company collapses. Everyone knows that." Everyone knows that. He admitted it. Then he grew arrogant, the way he always did when he believed he was winning. "They need me," he said, "and if they want war," he smiled, "they will get it." War. He said it like a threat. The interview ended with Cameron promising to return stronger and expose the board. He stood up, shook hands, and walked out of the studio with a smile. But behind the smile was panic, because while he performed on television, regulators moved. 2 days later, Cameron was served. Not a polite letter, not a negotiation, a formal investigation notice, asset freeze request, court summons. The board filed for immediate removal permanently. The company filed a defamation response. Regulators opened external audits. Cameron's allies abandoned him like rats leaving a sinking ship. His old investor fund tried to cut ties. His old executives stopped answering calls. Even Karen Holt, the aggressive lawyer he once bragged about, refused to represent him. And the most humiliating moment of Cameron's life happened exactly where he loved humiliating others, in the lobby of the glass tower. He returned again, like he could still own it. Security stopped him. This time, cameras captured everything. Cameron shouted, he demanded, he threatened. Then the security guard said the sentence that broke him. "Sir," he said calmly, "you are not allowed in this building." Not allowed. Cameron Reed, the man who used replaceable like a weapon, was now the one being erased. The footage leaked. It went viral. People mocked him. Investors laughed. Former employees posted stories about his cruelty. The world finally saw him not as a CEO, as a bully, a fraud, a weak man who needed others to feel small so he could feel big. 2 weeks later, the board held a final vote, not interim, permanent. Leonard Graves stood in front of the board and spoke. "Reed Global needs leadership built on integrity," he said, "and one man has proven he will protect this company even when it costs him." He looked at me. "Ethan Blake," he said, "we offer you the CEO seat." Silence filled the room. I felt the weight of every humiliation Cameron ever gave me, every meeting, every insult, every time I swallowed my pride. I stood slowly. "I accept," I said. And in that moment, I did not feel pride. I felt justice, because the seat Cameron thought belonged to him forever now belonged to the man he tried to destroy. Later that night, I walked into the glass conference room, the same room where Cameron humiliated me in front of everyone. I stood at the head of the table, the CEO chair, his chair. I ran my hand over the leather gently. Then I sat down, not to feel powerful, to remember something important. Power without integrity becomes cruelty, and cruelty always creates an enemy. Cameron created me, and in the end, I took his seat.